Joe Biden and Boris Johnson could strike an unusual friendship if the Democrat wins the presidential election, boosting the special relationship between Britain and the U.S., unearthed reports suggest. International Trade Secretary Liz Truss met her U.S. counterpart in Washington for the third round of talks to reach a trade deal between the two countries earlier this month. Mr. Johnson put an agreement with the US at the heart of his plans to revive the British after Brexit, and Ms. Truss's decision to travel during the coronavirus pandemic highlighted London's willingness. However, despite Ms. Truss's visit, the talks have been beset by disagreements, and the Secretary of State, Robert Lighthizer, said a deal is unlikely to happen this year. The upcoming US presidential election, taking place on November 3, could also further complicate things for Britain. Joe Biden, Mr. Trump's Democratic rival and currently ahead of the polls, is said to be against the landmark free trade deal between the two nations. His position on the matter is not exactly known, but Democratic Party leaders have been much more lukewarm on Brexit than leading Republicans. Mr. Biden was vice president in an administration that put itself squarely behind David Cameron's Remain campaign, notably clashing with Mr. Johnson in the process. Mr. Biden said in Dublin the day after the referendum, "We'd have preferred a different outcome." He then lashed out at the reactionary politicians and demagogues peddling xenophobia, nationalism and isolationism, in Europe and the US. However, according to Henry Zeffman, the Washington correspondent at the Times, a US-UK trade deal might still go ahead thanks to Mr. Biden and Mr. Johnson's personalities. Mr. Zeffman explained in a recent report, first as Foreign Secretary and then Prime Minister, Mr. Johnson dazzled President Trump, who seemingly forgot their brief feud in 2015. When Mr. Trump claimed that parts of London were so radicalized that police are afraid for their own lives, Mr. Johnson, as mayor, jabbed back, "The only reason I wouldn't go to some parts of New York is the real risk of meeting Donald Trump." It will help that Mr. Biden is affable by nature. His attachment to the old-school Senate mores of bipartisanship and cross-party amity is so strong that it arguably became a weakness during his primary campaign among a Democratic grassroots eager for relentless attacks on dissenters. He added, "The Prime Minister's attempts to forge a positive relationship with Mr. Biden will be helped too by the fact that beyond Brexit they have plenty in common." As Foreign Secretary, Mr. Johnson failed in a last-ditch lobbying mission to Washington to persuade the Trump administration not to quit the Iran nuclear deal. A Biden government would rejoin it, as it would the Paris Climate Agreement of which the UK remains a champion. Mr. Biden is a Russia hawk. Mr. Obama's attempt to reset relations with President Putin feels a long time ago now, and would take a less capricious approach to NATO. According to Peter Harris, an expert in U.S. foreign policy at Colorado State University, these shared priorities will ensure a strong working relationship. He told The Times, "Biden is likely to align more closely with the UK on big questions of global governance, such as the importance of multilateral institutions, all of which Trump has sought to undermine." Moreover, while Mr. Biden and his allies were dismayed by Brexit, Professor Harris urged caution over the idea that recriminations will dominate the special relationship if the Democrat gets elected. He explained, "The issue was hardly a core national interest for the United States. Similarly, I very much doubt that Biden and his team will think any less of Johnson for attempting to work closely with Trump. Biden will understand that foreign leaders have been put in a difficult situation during the Trump years. London has become a less valuable geopolitical partner as a result of Brexit, which has eroded Britain's traditional role as a transatlantic bridge, but it is still one of America's most important allies."